Hi there team, it's Harvey Penny here from Inspire CA. This is just a quick sound check. We are, how many minutes early? 3 minutes early, so we'll be getting started in 3 short minutes. In the meantime, could I ask a favor? This is our first time we've done Inspire TV. Could you please type through to the chat box a big fat hello Harvey? You can either do that to the chat or question box, and let me know if you can hear and see me okay, including a big pink wall with lots of pluses and minuses on it. And Jess can acknowledge that some of them are coming through. Sweet. Jess, who have we got acknowledging that they can hear us okay? Chris Becks. Thanks very much, Chris. Trish Walker. Yeah, that's awesome. Beautiful. Thanks, team. Very exciting. And Ben, just while we're live, would you like to unmute yourself and we'll just do a sound check for Ben Walker?
Here we go. Should be able to hear me now.
Yeah, sounds good. And Jess, I know you don't have your webcam on, but you're our co-pilot. Would you like to unmute yourself and say hello?
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Kate.
Awesome. Very cool. So if you hear, you can mute yourself. If you receive any comments or interaction from the chat box, then that will be from our co-pilot, Jessica Kate. Very cool. So we've got 2 minutes before we go live with episode number 1 of the Inspire TV. And you may hear a little brief interruption in the next minute or so. We're just awaiting a coffee coming in. Hopefully that's not too far away. Thanks, Trish. I see that my name label is Jessica Kate. We had a bit of a switch just prior to the webinar going live, so we're all good. That's my cue to turn my phone off. Yes. Thanks, bro. A little bit burnt. We're all good. Well, hello and welcome to Inspire TV. My name is Harvey Penny, business advisor and partner at a very special and very different accounting firm, Inspire CA. Now, Inspire TV is a business education channel teaching you how to build a business that gives you the freedom to put family first. And in another sense, it gives you the freedom to put family first and put them at the top of your priority list. Thanks for spending time with us today. We're very excited about our topic for today, which is the 5 numbers that matter in your business and in your life. And this business workshop is powered by Inspire CA. And we're the guys who help young families use their small business to achieve big goals. And you know, Inspire was built in a world, or born in a world, where 3 in 4 businesses fail and 1 in 2 marriages end in divorce. So in our own little way, we want to do something about it, and in so doing, inspire the world. So today we've got Ben Walker. He's a chartered accountant and the founder of Inspire CA. Ben, would you like to say hi and unmute yourself?
G'day everyone. Good to be on the webinar this morning.
Cool. So Ben's a qualified CA or chartered accountant and spent his early years learning the ropes in one of the big 4, or KPMG, which is a global accounting firm. He started Inspire because of frustration that accountants weren't doing enough for their clients. And that's really where Inspire CA was born. And also because they didn't really have nearly enough of a deep relationships with their clients and accountants. He's also the winner of many awards, Ant Hill 30 Under 30 Award and a finalist in the Brisbane Young Entrepreneur Awards, which means he knows his stuff when it comes to small business. So Ben, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. And a little bit about me, your host for Inspire TV, Harvey Penny. I'm grateful to be a new partner here at Inspire CA, and I started my career in change management. So I consulted to the best accounting firms around Australia. And I started a well-known movement in the accounting industry that helped accountants have a more meaningful impact in their clients' lives, because I really believe that accountants have the power to change the world. And in working with 500 of the best accounting firms around Australia, I met this one special accounting firm and this one special guy called Ben Walker. And I was so taken back by his think big attitude and the fact that he was running a real accounting firm that made a difference, both to him and his family, and also the team members that he served, and most importantly to the clients, community, and world that he lived in. So fast forward 3 years, Ben and I are now in business. Not only do we share a business, but we also share a vision about inspiring the world. One family, one small business, and one big goal at a time. Now, this webinar wouldn't be possible, and no, same to Inspire wouldn't be possible without our Inspire partners. And these are the businesses and people who we partner up with who act as if they are within the Inspire family, but help us in the areas that Inspire, as business advisors and accountants, can't operate in. We'd also like to thank Xero, who, when they heard about what we're doing in terms of being on the front foot, not just with advice, but also taking it to the next level with education, they absolutely wanted to be on board with supporting us throughout this journey. So with that in mind, let's get started with our Inspire TV topic for today, which is the 5 numbers that really matter in your business and your life. Now, Ben, I just wanted to introduce ourselves and also our team. So let's go on to the next slide. There's 5 key numbers that are important when it comes to your business and your life. And each of us have, our hand going here which has the 5 fingers on there. And that's going to be our guidance for the 5 important numbers. But just to start off, Ben, you're a chartered accountant. You're also in an accounting firm. What is it about numbers that you love most?
Yeah, well, there's 3 things really, and the first one is that numbers don't lie. So, looking through a set of financial statements or numbers, I can tell a lot about the health of a business, but also an insight into what the business owners might be feeling like emotionally as well.
Yeah, understood. And what about the second point there, measurable and manageable?
Yeah. So you might have heard the saying that numbers are whatever you can measure, you can manage, and so numbers are exactly that. If you know what they are, you can definitely manage them in a more positive way if they need to head that way.
Understood. And I found it really ironic with all the business owners we've worked with. Typically, they've started out as technicians, where they'd be, marketers or architects or scaffolders, and then they go, "Hey, let's start this thing called a business," and they, in real time, figure out what, how to do what they need to do. So, what role does numbers play in the running of a really good business, in your opinion?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the business owners who understand their numbers, who reflect on them, seek outside advice on their numbers, actually do better than those who don't. And it's also, numbers are that measuring stick. So if you're paying no attention to them, then how do you know whether you're actually getting better or worse, so to speak?
Yeah, understood. And in working with so many accountants, I've noticed that numbers can be a little bit like a foreign language, whether that be Spanish or Maori, and that's a language that needs to be learned. And the better business owners have a greater command of the number called language, the language called numbers. But I've also seen fantastic accountants acting a bit like an interpreter to business in terms of their role in business advice, interpreting what the numbers mean. So we're going to look at some examples of different businesses that exist in teaching what these 5 numbers are. And these are common examples such as Qantas, McDonald's, Facebook and Uber, and even Inspire. So you can get an understanding for how these numbers apply in the big businesses and also in the small. Ben, these 5 numbers, where did they come from and how did you come up with them?
Yeah, so they came through a process of working with, hundreds of businesses over the, throughout me working with in the accounting firm. And these 5 numbers are a great way of a business like to give a summary of how a business is going. They're also great to just to be aware of, and you can measure 50 things if you want to as a business owner, but rather than measure 50, which is sort of overwhelm, these 5 sort of summarize those 50, so to speak.
Yeah, awesome. And if you go to the next slide, let's get into those 5 key numbers. But the real principle that I want everyone to take away is there's 5 numbers. 2 of them are lead dominoes, and 3 of them are what you call the business essentials. And the lead dominoes, just like when you play with dominoes, once you tip one of them over, they have a roll-on and a flow-on effect to have a really big impact. And the business essentials have been introduced to us for this really common phrase that you've brought to our awareness, Ben, which is, how does it go? Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow or cash is king. So you've got the 5 fingers up there. That's our Inspire CA team, who's not only welcome you guys to the webinar today, but also into the 5 key numbers. So Ben, let's go deep into that first key number, which is our first lead domino.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first number is what I call the one number. And this is the number, or the one number that you focus on, that makes every other number sort of less important or heading in a positive way.
Understood. So you've described it to me as, numbers that have good impacts in regards to your clients or customers. Can you give me some examples of how you might find what your one number is?
Yeah, and I might answer that with a question. And the question is, what matters to your client? So through what you do, what matters to your customer or client?
Understood. So let's use some of those examples. I'm McDonald's, for instance. I'm in the business of, fast food or convenience food. So I understand what my business model is. How would I deduce what my one number would be, knowing this now?
Absolutely. So your customers come to you for that convenience or how fast the food arrives. So measuring something like the time it takes from ordering the food to when it arrives on that tray.
Okay then. Let's go another example. What about Uber? They're in the business of getting people from A to B. What would, if you owned Uber, and that would be a great thing, what would be the one number that you'd focus on in that business?
Yeah, so I guess Uber's would focus on the customer experience. So, how tidy the car is, how quickly the person arrives, and the interaction, the water that they give you or offer you, that sort of thing. So the experience, I think, is a focus of theirs. And the way that they actually track that or measure it is, I don't know whether many of the people along today have actually used it, but there's a 5-star rating. And each time you finish the trip, you rate the driver or the experience on a 1 to 5 scale.
Yeah, understood. That makes a lot of sense. What I might do, we've got a few people online today. Why don't you type through to the chat box what your business name is and what type of business that you're in. And let's see if we can do a little bit of a live brainstorm in terms of what your key numbers might be. And in so doing, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Ben, you might want to give what the example is for Inspire CA.
Yeah. So what matters in the tax side of things to our clients is the dollar value of tax saved, and so that's a number that we track and that we make sure that we're providing that value to our customers.
Yeah, understood. Ben, I've got Joe Winston here. He runs Yellow Bucket Marketing, so he's in the marketing space. What might he be looking out for in terms of a one number? What would matter most to his clients?
Yeah, in terms of marketing, something like the number of warm leads delivered to that business as a result of his marketing service.
Yeah, that's cool. I've also got Fonga. She's a life coach. So she's in that business of changing people's lives. Any guidance as to how we might be able to explore a number for her?
Yeah, it could be, without understanding exactly the process she takes her customers through, but it could be something like, a feeling or a scale of 1 to 10 of how that they're actually doing each time that she catches up with them.
Yeah, understood. And I've got a great question come through here from Jake Lawson. He runs Next Gen Visuals, which does video production and YouTube marketing.
Cool.
And his question to you, Ben, is, so would our number be the number of leads created for our clients from their videos or just subscribers on their channel?
Great question. And it would be important to have a handle over both. But what really matters to the business, I can imagine, is people picking up the phone as a result of watching those videos. So subscribers is one thing, but it leads into picking up the phone. And I think if the videos are done in a way which can have that call to action, that would matter more to a business, in my opinion.
Understood. So the key thing is that we want to focus of all the numbers on one thing that's customer oriented, that if we were to just consistently hit that number, whether it be for us in our business, how quickly we respond to client queries, or for Joe, how many leads he generates as a result of the marketing he implements, then you'd have to assume that everything else as a result would be either not necessary, where there'd be a lot of effort in your sales process, or even just a lot easier as a result. So I really get that. So let's go on to the next question. Thanks very much for your interaction on that piece, team, and I hope you got a lot of value out of that one number. Ben, there's 2 lead dominoes that we spoke of. So let's talk about the second number and the second lead domino.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so the second lead domino is what I call the key life indicator.
Interesting. So this is not quite a key performance indicator like you'd have in business, but this is more applied to your personal life, is it?
Absolutely. And why that there's a personal life number or measurable number is, you might know the Australian maxim or saying that, you can't let your personal life affect your business life and vice versa. But I'm sure we can all relate. Don't kid yourself on that, because if you're having a bad day in the business, or the business isn't going well, it's going to make you more stressed at home, and vice versa. If you're going through some challenges at home, you're not going to be performing at your best in the business. So why the key life indicator? It's choosing something in your personal life that makes everything in your personal life easier, or sort of less stress, so that you're able to focus on the business when it is business time.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to ask a question to the audience, and I'll let you guys type through the chat box. And while we're doing that, Ben and I are going to give some examples. But what do you know in your own personal experience that if you focus on outside of business, I'm talking personal life here, if you consistently were to do those activities that always are good for you personally? And Ben, could you give us some examples of key life indicators that you've helped business owners find for themselves in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. And some examples I've helped people with are things like the number of times they pick up their children from school, the number of date nights with their spouse or loved ones, things like the number of, which is actually mine at the moment, the number of times I get to the gym each week. So that's 3 examples there.
Yeah, understood. So which one is yours, sorry?
The number of times I get to the gym each week.
Yeah, understood. So again, type through the chat box. What are the personal activities in your own personal life that you know that when you consistently achieve them or make time and priority for them, it has a positive flow and effect to other areas in your life? Things that come to mind, for me, is getting up in the morning and going to the gym and just spending that 40 minutes of me time. I work out with a good mate of mine, and that's sort of our way to start the day. And I know when I do that, everything else flows on and feels amazing. When I don't, it just doesn't have that same vibe to the day, or doesn't have that same energy. I've got some other people typing through examples about finishing work in time so that they can go there and pick up the kids, pick them up from school. That's obviously powerful because there's that work-life balance and there's the priority in relation to family and work there. Other examples, we've got the date nights coming through, and we've got time unplugged from the internet and from computers on the weekend. So that makes a lot of sense too. So that's great. I've got Fonga, her ideal day starts from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So she's got some structure about things. So there's your 2 lead indicators or lead dominoes. You've got your business one number, which is what is the one thing we could focus on that's client related that would make everything else either unnecessary or easier as a result. And we've also got a key life indicator, which helps bring into account our personal life and how that has positive effects on our business. Now we go into our business essentials. And these are the 3 that was described by that saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. So Ben, do you want to take us through what these 3 business essentials are? And let's dive a little bit deeper into crunching some numbers.
Yeah. So the three business essentials, or the first one is revenue. And revenue is also known as sales, but basically it means the dollar value that you actually invoice your customers.
Understood. And why would something like revenue be really important for us to track and have a goal of?
Yeah, I guess without revenue, there's no cash to really build the business or to pay your suppliers. So it is a really key number and something that you need to aim for. But there's something in that saying which I think you'll touch on in a sec, Harvey, of why it's not everything.
Yeah, understood. And what's a good revenue number or revenue target?
Great question. That's very dependent on the business and where the business is at in its growth cycle. But there's a way that you can work it out by just spending a bit of time budgeting for that.
Yeah, understood. So do you have any examples? Like we had the point of Qantas and Uber and Facebook, etc. What are the type of revenue targets that some of these big businesses have?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of notes here, but Facebook's, for instance, for their most recent financial year was $12.5 billion.
Wow. That's interesting.
That-
Any other examples there?
Yeah. Qantas was 15.3 billion, so a fraction more than Facebook, and Macca's was $27.5 billion.
Far out. Well, I contributed $5.15 to that last night. We got a McFlurry after our touch footy. So Ben, can you just describe to me then, like these are big numbers that you're throwing around. What does it mean then that revenue is vanity?
Yeah, so I guess revenue actually doesn't mean anything about the actual performance of a business. It gives an indication of how much it's invoicing clients or billing their customers, but it doesn't tell you how much that you actually expect to keep of that money.
Understood. So that brings us to the next one then. If revenue is vanity, the saying goes that profit is sanity. So could you take us into the next number or business essential, which is net profit?
Yeah, absolutely. So net profit, the easiest way to explain that is out of every dollar that you invoice your customer, how much do you actually expect to keep?
Understood. And how would we calculate that or figure that out?
Yeah. So profit's calculated by simply taking the sales or the revenue less the expenses it took to deliver those services.
Yeah, understood. So let's go back to some of those public examples with those big businesses like Qantas and Uber, etc. What are their net profit percentages? And let's do a bit of interpretation on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook's is 40%. So every dollar that comes in, they keep 40 cents. Qantas was 4.9%. So very different between Facebook and Qantas. I might also note there, Harvey, that last year, the 2014 financial year for Qantas, they actually had a loss, a 26.2% loss, net loss. So that must have been pretty impactful for them.
So could you just reinterpret that in light of net profit? So that meant for every dollar that they had coming in,
they actually paid out $1.26.
Whoa. And what was the figure for Facebook again for every dollar that came in?
They kept 40 cents of their 12 billion in revenue.
That's amazing. So again, I'll ask you the question, what is a good net profit percentage for a business?
Yeah, so net profit percentage depends on your business model. So, for instance, Facebook having a 40% net profit or Qantas having a 4-point-something%. You can see that that might be healthy for both businesses. It just depends on the makeup, really. But my answer to that is better than your previous months.
Yeah, understood. And probably the question of the hour then, once I know or figure out what my net profit percentage is, how do I improve or increase that?
Yeah, so there's literally hundreds of ways to increase your net profit. That could be through, but I guess there's two main ways. You can either increase your revenue or sales, or decrease your expenses, and that will increase your net profit percentage.
Yeah, understood. And if you don't mind, do you mind sharing that example of what we counted yesterday? Because one way to increase your net profit is to minimize those expenses. One of the biggest expenses business owners pay is in tax, right?
Mm.
What were you able to achieve for that client yesterday that you just shared in our private Facebook community?
Yeah. So I shared a win yesterday. We saw a client earlier in the week, and just after a simple what we call a look under the hood, where we just review what's happened in the last couple of financial years, I was able to find about $35,000 in tax that they had overpaid. That fortunately we can actually get back for them.
Understood. So they were a business that had been going to another accountant in their own way for a number of years. And so what was it? The accountant had missed something, or each accountant has their own different way? Like, how could there be such inconsistency amongst advisors?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually don't know the answer to them. I don't know what was going through their heads, but my opinion is that I guess a lot of accountants don't actually put the thought or put themselves in the client's shoes and focus on minimizing the amount of tax legally that a business can pay.
Yeah, understood. And as a result of you having a look under the hood, how much were you able to save that client or put back into their pocket?
At $35,000.
That's crazy. They were pretty happy with you, I'm sure.
Mm.
So for those who are live on today's webinar, if you'd like the opportunity for Ben to have a quick look under the hood, and that's give you a second opinion on if you're in business and you've got that inkling that you might be paying too much in tax, or that you want some ideas about how you might want to or be able to grow your business, then all you need to do is just email hello@inspireca.com and say, can I get a second opinion? And just like we were able to do for that business client yesterday, who was considering coming on board with us, who I'm pretty sure is absolutely a yes now, Ben, we can do that for you and just have a look around and see what opportunities might exist. So to be able to do that, just email hello@inspireca.com. Ben, if you're happy to do that for those who are attending our session live, how many of those might you be able to do over the next week or so, realistically?
Yeah, so over the next week, I'd say I could fit in 10 of those look under the hoods.
Awesome. Cool. So first 10 is email through hello@inspireca.com and Jess will receive those, and we'll actually have seen a couple come through and we'll be able to get Ben to have a look through for you. So Ben, there's the net profit percentage and we're on the home run now. Let's look at our third point in the business essential range. So we've got revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and finally the saying goes, cash is king. So is cash position what we're looking for here?
No, so it's not quite a cash position. And what I find a lot of business owners do is run their business and also their emotions on what's in the bank. And that's a very dangerous position to be in, because it gives us no context as to what's coming in and what has to go out. It's just this constant, if it's low, for instance, it's a high stress. If there's plenty of money in the bank, then it's all fine. But what if all of it needs to be paid to someone? That's the context that cash in the bank does not give. So the third business essential, or the fifth number, is what we call liquidity ratio.
Awesome. So what is, or how would you define liquidity ratio?
Yeah, so liquidity ratio is a percent of what's coming in versus what's going out. So for instance, for every dollar coming in, how much or how much of that do you need to pay straight out?
Interesting. And so how would you calculate, or what is the formula, if you like, for liquidity ratio?
Yeah, okay. So there's two components, as I mentioned. There's what's coming in, and what's coming in, I mean the cash in the bank plus people who owe you money. So what we call debtors or accounts receivable, but invoices outstanding. So cash plus what's coming in, divided by what's going out. And what I mean by that is suppliers that you owe money to, the glorious ATO for GST, pay as you go, and also things like superannuation that you've got to pay as well. So the sum of both of those, and then money coming in divided by money going out.
Yeah. And so as a result, let's say you've got 200,000 in the coming in column and 100,000 in the going out column. That would give you, what would that liquidity ratio be?
So that would be 2 to 1. So for every $2 that's coming in, you have to pay out $1.
Awesome. Okay, that makes sense. So 2 to 1 sounds good to me. So just thinking out loud then, a 1 to 1 liquidity ratio, that would mean for every dollar coming in, there's a dollar coming out. So we're more or less getting nowhere. Is a one-to-one good or bad? What does that mean?
It's not great, but it's better than less than one. But what a ratio of 1 to 1 means is that there's really no room for profit there. You're not really making money in the business. You're just making ends meet, so to speak.
Understood. And is it possible to have a liquidity ratio of 0?
Not quite 0, but a very low 0.001, just the maths involved. But if you've got a liquidity ratio of less than 1, you do need to turn that around very quickly.
Yeah, essentially your days are numbered, right?
Absolutely.
As long as your cash flow can afford to fund that difference.
Yeah.
And are there any public examples that we're all aware of? Like, could you go back to the McDonald's, Qantas of the world? What is their liquidity ratios?
Absolutely. So Facebook is quite cashed up. They've got a liquidity ratio of 9.6 to 1. So for every $9.60, they've only got to spend $1 going out.
Wow.
Qantas, on the other hand, have a 0.67 to 1 ratio. So every 67 cents that comes in, they've got to pay $1 out.
All right. Okay. Understood. And like in your experience, what sort of liquidity ratios have you seen with the nature of businesses that you've worked with?
Yeah, so I've seen from the very low up to say 36 to 1. So every $36 coming in, only one's going out. So it's more than 3 times what Facebook's sitting at.
That is awesome. And I'm guessing, again, this is some of the interpretation that's possible with numbers. What type of business, you don't have to give the specifics, but what type of business would reflect the 36 to 1 ratio? Like, I'm guessing they're pretty tech savvy. They've got leverage and scalability within their business. What does this business typically look like?
Yeah, so they're selling education in a really unique way, and basically over the last couple of years, in the last few months, they've seen some significant growth. I actually caught up with a lady who runs the business recently, and she said she's hiring 1 person per day to keep up with the growth.
Far out, that's insane. Well, we'll be there one day, bro. I've got a question that's come through from the audience and says, how do we work on this number if our cash flow is inconsistent? Does it still apply?
Yeah, so it depends on what you mean by cash flow. Again, if you mean cash in the bank, then this number or this liquidity ratio does add more context to that. But increasing liquidity means that you need to make more profit in the business and control the cash coming from that profit.
Understood. So final question, the question of the hour in regards to liquidity ratio. Now that I know what my liquidity ratio is, Ben, how would I improve that?
Yeah. Okay. So controlling expenses is one way, but also making sure that you're keeping what we call a war chest as well. So collecting a bit of cash and not just spending it straight away. So that's another way to build up this liquidity ratio.
Understood. And I've got a question come through from Jeffrey, and this is probably the final question from our audience. What is the structure around which InspireCA works with its business clients?
Yeah. Okay. So for instance, if you're looking for help with these 5 numbers and help interpreting the financials in your business, then we have what's called the Business Copilot program. And that's where we work with you on a 1-to-1 level, interpreting these numbers and helping you drive the vehicle that is your business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks very much for that, Ben. That's the end of our first Inspire TV. Feel free to type through any further questions that you have in the chat box. And Joe, it was really nice to see your comments or realizations coming through. Joe said, if it means that if you want to have $1 million business with a 50% net profit, you have to spend $500,000.
Yes.
That's true. And sometimes people get a little scared about spending money, but that is okay if we've got a great net profit ratio. And that's the point, I suppose, of working with experts like Ben, because we can give you, as your co-pilot, guidance in terms of where you're at and how we can change those levers to get the numbers to where you want to be. So Ben, would you like to summarize what the 5 numbers are as a summary of this session today?
Yeah, so we've got the 1 number, So the one number in your business that makes everything else easier or less necessary. We've also got the lead domino, the key life indicator. So what in your personal life would have that flow-on effect to make everything else easier? And then we've got the 3 business essentials, and they are, again, revenue, net profit percentage, and liquidity ratio.
Awesome. Very cool, Ben. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for supporting our very first episode of Inspire TV. If you go to the final slide, Ben, it's just a special thank you message from the Inspire CA team. Our mission is to inspire the world, one young family, one small business, and one big goal at a time. And Inspire TV is our way of being able to have that impact on the small business community. So we thank you very much for supporting, and we'll be back next month for episode 2. You need to go on to Facebook and follow us, and we'll make the announcement shortly about what the topic of episode 2 will be. Thanks very much for all your support. For those who do want to take things to the next level, I encourage you to hang out with us in person, not just through live online webinars, but also every Friday we host an Inspire meetup at our Inspire Business Hub, where we get an inspiring person and message to share something or tips about how to improve your business. As you know, we've got 2 beers on tap here at the Inspire Business Hub, so come down for a drink, learn something new, and meet some great people doing inspiring things. Ben, thanks very much for your time in today's episode 1 of Inspire TV, and we'll see you all later.
Thank you.
And Jess, just need to hit record or stop recording.